Hi, Amari Salutum here. If you're new to our channel, which you probably are since we're first getting started, we create wellness videos that are focused on the mind-body connection. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, currently in a PhD program, and have a background in nutrition. I majored in nutrition and food science as an undergraduate student and worked in the field for a little bit. Today it's just me, and we're going to create a low-carb, vegan, Indian-inspired cabbage dish. I've seen a lot of different variations of this recipe, especially with Chinese and also Indian cuisine. What I did was kind of use the ingredients that I had on hand. What I like about this recipe is not only is it healthy, it's also pretty cheap and it doesn't take very much time. I wouldn't say any more than 30 minutes from start to finish. Cabbage is of course the main focus of this recipe, and I really like cabbage because of its high nutrition profile. Just 1/2 cup of raw cabbage will provide you with about 1/3 the amount of daily recommended vitamin C. Of course, that's based on a 2,000 calorie diet. It's also very high in magnesium, potassium, fiber, antioxidants, and a bunch of other great health benefits. Cabbage is something I've been using in a lot of my recipes lately, and hopefully I'll share with you some more too. I think this is a great recipe that you can use for meal prep, so maybe making it on the weekend and you can portion it out throughout your week. The recipe I'm making will have anywhere from 4 to 6 servings. It really is going to depend on how you want to portion it out. So I'm going to show you in a second how we actually make this dish from start to finish, and then towards the end, stay tuned because I'll show you the nutrition profile. So all of the calories, the grams of fat, carbohydrates, proteins, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned. Here are the ingredients we'll be using in this recipe. We have 1 Jeroma cabbage, although you could use red cabbage as well, I think. Also, if you just found a shredded coleslaw cabbage prepackaged, that would take a lot less time. 1 large white onion, 1 cup of low sodium soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 5 minced cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of curry powder, and 1 pound of Beyond Beef. Step number 1 is we're going to heat up the olive oil for about a minute under medium heat. We don't want it too hot or else it's going to scorch the onion. And we'll add our onions. My onions were unfortunately frozen because my fridge is a little bit too cold, so they might look a lot different in terms of texture than yours, but it still works even though they're semi-frozen. I'm going to cook this on low heat for about 5 to 7 minutes until they're browning up a little bit. You'll know when the onions are ready because it'll be more fragrant, and you'll also kind of hear that sizzle sound. Now we can add our garlic. I'm one of those people that really likes garlic. If you don't like a lot of garlic, you can cut it down to 1 or 2 cloves. I put 6 in just because that's what I'm used to. You want to make sure that you stir this consistently because if you don't, the garlic will stick to the pan. And I've noticed even with a copper pan that I have here, sometimes it burns off. So I'm always very careful to stir this based on past mistakes I've made. We've had this garlic on for a couple minutes, and It's browning very slightly, and I think for me, this is a good amount to leave it at. If you want it to brown up a little bit more, please do so. I think that's totally fine. Next, we have our Beyond Beef, and you want it to crumble almost like a beef texture, like the kind of crumbles you'd see in a taco meat. So I'm going to work on that and break it down, and then make sure that it's browned up a little bit too. So with the Beyond Beef, it does resemble actual beef, and so it's reddish before it's cooked, and then it'll brown. It's extremely similar to beef, although it's been 22 years since I've actually eaten real beef, so I think it's similar to actual beef at least. I think Beyond Beef is a great substitute. However, it's not, I wouldn't say it's the healthiest substitute because it is pretty high in sodium. And again, I'll show you that towards the end of the video, all of the nutrition facts. I actually wanted to just use texture vegetable protein and make my own beef type mixture, but I didn't have enough. Hopefully I'll be able to do that in another video then. It's really simple, it's easy, and I think it's a lot healthier of an option than using the Beyond Beef, which is a bit more processed. So I'm gonna cook this for about, we'll say 7 to 10 minutes until it browns up. Then I'll show you what that looks like. You can see that it's pretty browned up right now. We have our 1 cup of low sodium soy sauce. And then our 2 tablespoons of curry powder. I'm gonna read to you what's in the curry powder I used. It's by Simply Organic. It has organic coriander, turmeric, mustard, cumin, fenugreek, paprika, cayenne, cardamom, nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves. And so it makes it a lot easier to just use one spice mixture than a whole bunch. So I'm going to continue to cook this for a couple more minutes. So it's a little bit watery, and we want it to be watery at this point because when we put the cabbage in, it's going to be a nice sauce. Okay, in goes our shredded cabbage. I'm not the best cutter of food and vegetables, that's for sure. That's why I say buying the pre-cut cabbage, like the coleslaw kinds, might be a lot easier for you. I think it would have been easier for me. It is a tad bit more expensive, which is why I shy away from it. I try and share recipes that are pretty cheap, that college students can use, especially since it's the population that I work with. So I'm keeping them in mind. I think that this is a very versatile recipe, which, like I said, I kind of just combined it and made it my own into what I had. That's what I like about cabbage. You can use it in so many different ways. If you do eat beef, I mean, definitely you could substitute a pound of ground beef in here. I think chicken would probably go nicely. I also think tofu, some baked tofu, like a box of that would be great. I don't like to cook my vegetables for too long. I like them to have a bite. If you like them to be a little bit more well cooked, then go for that. I'm gonna cook this for, I'm gonna say, another 5 to 7 minutes, and then this is what it looks like right now. I'll show you in about 5 minutes what the texture of mine looks like. As you can see, the cabbage is a little bit more wilted, but not too much so. I really wouldn't recommend cooking this more than a half an hour. I did a little taste test. For me, it is enough salt. I don't like cooking with added salt, but I am gonna use a little bit of pepper. You can add some, totally optional. So I'm gonna plate this and try it out. I determined all of this information from using a food scale. You could easily find this by using an app and kind of estimating. I like to use MyFitnessPal, which I find is pretty accurate. I think for determining nutrients, it's always going to be an estimate no matter what, even if you are weighing the food. I took the individual food items and I weighed them on the scale to determine this information. It didn't give me everything. So for example, I don't have vitamins and things like that on here. I do have the core nutrition facts that you'd find on a lot of different packages. You can see here that the sodium is pretty high, and the bulk of why it's so high is from the soy sauce, even though it is low sodium. Definitely, I'd say cut back on the soy sauce. You could even use a half of a cup or a quarter cup and be okay. Something you might want to add instead of that is a low sodium vegetable broth, which probably has a lot less sodium than soy sauce. What I determined here was for each food item I used, and then the kilocalories, the fat, saturated fat, so on and so forth. And for 1/6 of a serving, this is the nutrient profile you'll see. About 285 kilocalories, 17 grams of fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, no cholesterol, not even in the Beyond Beef. There's pretty high sodium, relatively speaking. 1,671 milligrams. There's 19 grams of carbs, 6 grams of fiber. If you're calculating net grams of carbs, that would only be 13 grams of carbs. The sugars, it's 5.6, but there's no added sugar. This is the sugar from the vegetable natural sugars from primarily the onion and the cabbage. And then there's 18 grams of protein. Hey, it's all done. I'm going to show you a picture close-up. I wouldn't say that it's the prettiest looking food in the world, but I think it'll taste really great. So let me give it a try. It's a little too hot right now, but this is really good. I like the curry powder. I think it's just the right amount, the 2 tablespoons. I think I maybe went a little bit crazy using 3 pinches of the black pepper. I think you could have used 2 and it would have been fine. I hope you liked watching this recipe making experience. If you have any suggestions or you try this recipe out and you really like it, let me know in the comments. If you try this out and you have different variations, also please let me know too. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.